All right. Melania Trump had an interview on Fox yesterday with Ainsley Earhardt. And there were a number of parts of it that I thought were interesting. I'm going to play the most fascinating part to me and then give my commentary afterward.
And were you able to talk to him on the phone eventually?
Yes, I did. I did.
And then your son rushes into the room.
Yes.
And he had been told, your son is in college, I understand, but he's still your child. This is his father. How difficult was that to have that conversation with
Very
him?
difficult. Very difficult. He was outside playing sport, and he rushed in, and was very, very difficult.
And then a few weeks later, there's another attempt on your husband's life at your golf course. Where were you, and what was your reaction to this attempt?
I was in New York City, actually, and I saw it on the television. And as soon as I saw it on television, I called again, and he was okay because Secret Service were great. The guys that they were with him, they were fantastic. And I think both of the events, they were really miracles. If you really think about it, the July 13 was a miracle, like that much, and he could not be with us.
And he normally doesn't call for that one screen. He waits till the end of the speech. So just looking at that screen allowed him to turn his head.
Yeah.
And he said it was providential. Does this make you believe in it more, in a higher power? How has that been for you?
I think something was watching over him. I think it's almost like country really needs him.
That maybe God's sparing his life?
Yes.
And then we were told this week, and we were told that authorities have already known this for a while, that there was an Iranian plot to kill your husband. So I watched this video that you released on social media questioning the first assassination attempt. For the second one, if they knew that there was this plot, why didn't they sweep the golf course?
You know, it's interesting how quiet and everything became, all of the mainstream media. There were a few days reporting about July 13 event, and everything then became quiet. So I had a lot of questions. What's going on? This is not normal. And is it really shocking that all this egregious violence goes against my husband? Especially that we hear the leaders from the opposition party and mainstream media branding him as a threat to democracy, calling him vile names. They only fueling a toxic atmosphere and giving power all of these people that they want to do harm to him. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. The country needs to unite. And I encourage everybody to read my letter that I wrote on July 14 again, because that cannot continue.
Letter was very powerful. What made you get to the point of writing that letter?
That's how I felt. That's how I felt.
How do you feel when people say they don't like him? What do you wish they knew about him?
That he is really a family man. He loves his family. He loves this country. And all he wants to build better and prosperous.
Yeah, he's just strong. He's not afraid to
No, he's not
talk
strong.
about the way it really is.
You could see the way he was when he was shot, that in the ear, that the way he stood up and he said, fight, 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 because we cannot allow that to happen.
The first thing I should say is that I was really disappointed with how overhyped the interview was. Like, I thought when they said she will be sitting down for her first exclusive interview in 2 years, like, oh man, this is going to be a half hour at the minimum. This thing's like, what, 14 minutes? which is really sad because you would think if there's a person who doesn't give interviews that often, you'd have all the more reason to like actually have this big, enormous, or at least decent length inquiry as to how they've been. You know, as far as I could tell, there were no questions about, hey, so what did you think? What did you think when your husband said he was going to run for president for the third consecutive election in a row? What did you think when he got the nomination? What did you think of his challengers? Just basic stuff that I would have liked to have known because I do think she's interesting. I have said before that I have a lot of sympathy for her because she just happens to. Most of the people that dislike her are just people who don't like Trump, so it's like guilt by association, which I have never been a fan of. I think someone should be criticized on the merits of what they do. And a lot of the stuff that she's done that people claim was like this really bad or awful thing, I don't have really a problem with either. But the part of this that was interesting, the most interesting, because like when she's describing the reaction to the shooting, I can believe that Barron loves his dad, it's his kid, whatever. And it's the youngest one, so they're even more inclined to, be favorable toward their parents. But she mentions that the media and a lot of these like people who are saying Trump wants to destroy the Constitution and the various things that we've mentioned, or I guess quoted him as being involved with, that we're creating the toxic environment that empowers his attackers to do the things that they've done. And I really have to push back on this because whenever someone runs for office in the modern climate, not talking about, 30, 40 years ago, in the modern climate, when someone runs for office, especially if they run for president, they have to be prepared for anything and everything to be said about them. If you're a Democrat running for president, you're going to have people call you a socialist, far left, radical. You're trying to turn the U.S. into socialist, Marxist, communist. All these terms that get thrown around. You're going to raise all these taxes and open the border and have illegal immigrants raining down like cats and dogs. Just all this stuff gets thrown around. And with Trump, a lot of the rhetoric that people use towards him is exclusive to him, meaning that, Democrats are not trying to say every Republican is against democracy because of the manner of what happened during the 2020 certification. If he hadn't have attempted to get Pence to overturn the results, people would not be saying these things. Along with, not being forceful in terms of getting the protesters who came to leave, to get out of there. But also, it goes back to this thing of like, I've said before, I don't support Trump getting shot or any politician getting any violence brought upon them at all. I don't care who it is. I don't support it. This is supposed to be a democracy, not a banana republic. But I don't see where it is the fault of people who criticize members of the opposition for that one crazy person or those two crazy people or even those 10 or 20 crazy people out of millions of Americans who decide to try to do something with a firearm. I don't see how we're responsible for that, or like, I guess I'm asking like to her, what else are we supposed to do? Just not talk about what he does or says? And of course, towards the end of the interview, she starts mentioning that Trump is a family man and how everything was so much better under him than it is now, and people have to look at the choices and mean tweets and it's another one of those like revisionist things. She actually repeated another line that I'm so sick of, where she said that Trump had no wars. It's just like they'll always just conveniently forget about Soleimani's murder and the fact that we came like this close to having some problems with Iran. Also, the fact that Trump kept all of Obama's 7 wars going. But, it's just they like to pretend it didn't happen. So, yeah, it was an interesting interview. I wish it was longer. Right now on Amazon, her book is going for, I think, $28. I kind of want to get it. I've said I wanted to get it before. because, like I said, I do think she's interesting. I think she has been unfairly maligned. There are some legitimate critiques of her in terms of, like, she did go along with the birthergate thing that Trump was doing, where he tried to say Obama was out of the, wasn't born in the U.S. So that is something you could criticize her over. But in general, most of the stuff towards her has left me very sympathetic towards her, and I am very curious about her book. I just can't imagine, like, hey, person who hasn't done an interview in 2 years, want to talk for less than 20 minutes? Yay!